Hi everyone. I thought today you guys might be interested in seeing how I set up my creative space, which you can see behind me. It was quite an evolution for me to come to this point, and I actually made most of it myself because I couldn't find anything that worked exactly for what I wanted, which was to be efficient, all within reach, and just a system that worked for me and my specific needs. So I thought we might take a bit of a tour and I can show you how I came to this eventual result and the process I went through and the things I tried beforehand before I got to this point. So let's go. So I'm holding my camera today, guys, so it's probably going to be a little bit up and down. But first of all, my desk. It's an old trestle table. I wanted a desk that was going to be something that I'm not scared to make a big mess of, and it's a 6 foot by 3 foot trestle desk, so it gives me a really nice wide space to work on and give me the storage at the back for my most used colouring supplies. Now, we live in a very old house, and you can see there's a bit of a gap at the bottom there for my board, and that's because the trestle bow's in the middle. So between the uneven floor and the bow in the trestle, I've had to do a bit of packing out. So this is what I use to store my pencils and supplies in. And how I came about this was a process. Now, I wanted to make my own storage, so I'm going to show you the different systems that I tried. Okay, so here they are in a big pile from start to finish. So first of all, I saw lots of rolls and I decided to make one of my own. And this one was for my polychromos. So you can probably see the problem already. Have a look on my desk. Now, this is a 6 foot long desk, and this takes up a massive amount of space on it. And I just found it super inconvenient to be messing around with this to try and get my pencils. So that didn't work out for me. Next, I tried to create a system that was actually pretty functional until I discovered its major flaws. So these were my prototypes, so they're pretty messy. I like to sort of make something up first of all, see if it works, and then work from there. So I created tiered layers with dividers in. I think they could fit about 8 pencils in, and they were actually quite good in some ways because they saved quite a bit of space. Let me just put a few pencils in, you can see how they work. So I could actually store these on my desk upright in a letter holder, and then they were really good for laying out on the desk and being able to get the pencils out. So the two major flaws with it were that I couldn't keep the pencils in exact order. Things would move around when I took pencils in and out. And you can see here, when a pencil got small, if it was smaller than that, it was going to disappear inside. So that was a problem for me. So that idea was out. Moving on to the next thing I tried to create a folder storage system. So I I created holes and then hand stitched on my elastic so that these pencils could slip in like that and they could be put into a binder. I don't think I lasted with that very long. I just found it actually really clunky. I'd made about 4 of them and I didn't like it. So then I thought, okay, I'm just not going to be able to make a system myself. I'm going to have to resort to buying the zippered pencil cases that everyone else has. And I just didn't like them. I didn't like how I would have to move back and forth through them. I couldn't lay things out on my desk where I would be able to access everything. I know people love them, but they just were not for me. So I tried 2 different types, the ones that had all the individual pencils and the ones where you could store 3 pencils or markers. So in the end, what I came up with was my drawer units. So as I said at the start, I had to make these myself, but they're perfect. They work absolutely perfectly for me. So how I designed them, I actually watched a whole heap of people doing cardboard construction on YouTube. and I played around and I made this is my template box. You can see that it's not very neat on the edges. The drawer handles are very thin. It's just not a sturdy construction, but I learned a lot from it. And from that, I was able to create a template. So the two big things that I wanted was to be able to store 150 sets in, let me have a look, what have I got here? 150 sets, and to be able to house the trays that they came in. So I had to make the size of the trays wide enough to be able to hold a range of pencil sets. So in this bigger one here, we've got the Prismacolor, which are a 150, the Holbein, which are a 150, the Luminance. So these ones, I actually bought mine in a couple of sets. This is from the 72 set tray, and then I added a bit of extra space on the end for those. But because their initial trays are quite big, they actually fit quite neatly in the same size box. And then my ChromaFlow, which are also a 150. I made smaller boxes to fit the Polychromos. Now, because I bought Polychromos by the pencil over the years, I had quite a lot from previous, creative endeavors. So I had about half the set already. So I just decided to buy the rest by the piece, and I created my own little dividers to be able to hold them in position. And you can see they're labelled with all the colours so that I can put things back quite easily. So there's smaller ones for the Polychromos and Albert Dürer, the Inktense and the Lightfast, and the Derwent Drawing. They fit in 2 trays, the Colour Soft, and these 2 trays at the moment are empty. I used to have my pastel pencils in those, but I sold them because I didn't like them. And at the moment, my pan pastels, which I absolutely love, are stored in this box until I can make a customized storage system for them. So you can see from my prototype, these handles were really quite thin, and I went to a thicker handle, which is much easier to pull out. So what's great about this is I can pull out the individual trays and have them lying on my desk. I label all of the positions of the colours so that they're really, really easy to put back. And the colours are put in the same order that I have on my swatch chart. For me, I find it very hard to function creatively unless I have really, really good organisation. I like everything on my desk. I can sit here and I can reach everything on my desk. So for me, it works really well. So up here I have there's some gel pens, which once I've used them, I won't be replacing them, or I'll give them to my granddaughter. Moving on to my, the Zig Clean colours. So they're up here. They're all in a specific colour order. They all have their numbers labelled on them, and they're from yellow. They're from the same way as the colour chart, from yellow, colour wheel order, through to blacks, browns, and the fluoros. Up the top here, I have spare pencils, brushes for blending, and my paper towel, and a few spares of things. And I like to use these for tags and different things. Sometimes when I just want to put placeholders in books, I use these cards, glitter pens. And here I have, easily accessible because I use them all the time, my Staedtler pigment pens. I love these things. And the other pens that I use really frequently. So blenders, white pencils, gel pens, just a range of fine line pens, my Sharpie white brush acrylic markers, which I love. They're my favourite. Some other acrylic markers, some metallic markers, which I never use, but my granddaughter really loves, so I let her use those, and some more fine liners. Down the bottom, I created units that would hold things like utility knives, which I use all the time, sharpeners, erasers, so all sorts of different types of erasers in there. Blending things, pencil holders, clips when I'm wanting to hold back different things. I've got a few of my large clips my daughter's using at the moment. My Neo 2s, glitter, pens and brush markers. And this one I think holds my Spare Pan Pastel, which I bought thinking I was buying a new colour, and I doubled up on it, and I was really irritated with myself because I swatched it before I realised. So an expensive mistake. But that is my storage system. So I've also got over here close to hand, I have my IKEA unit that has my books and my I've got a couple of other units that I made to fit the IKEA thing with just extra stuff in it that I use, not as frequently, so it's a little bit further away from the desk. And I also have a trolley. So the trolley has really mostly my watercolour supplies on it. I use a lot of watercolours, my Brusho, my acrylic paint and tapes, and my colour charts down there. Now, I really, really love my setup. As I said, for me, it's super functional. It was actually really inexpensive because I bought huge sheets of cardboard to make it, but it was quite time consuming to make. So eventually I've got room to increase. But what I do think is going to happen as I go along, I've sort of bought all the pencil sets that I wanted, and my criteria with these pencil sets was that I could buy replacement pencils for them. So I didn't have to buy a whole set if I ran out of some pencils to replace them. But I don't use all of these pencils equally. So some sets I won't replace. Some I will just replace the colours that I particularly like. So for instance, the ChromaFlow set, I really love some of the colours in it. They're fantastic, but I don't love how the pencil performs. Well, what I actually do quite like how the pencil blends, but I have a lot of breakage issues with them. So that is something that I won't be replacing all of the colours. The only problem I do find is most of the colours that I really, really like are ones that came later on in the set, and they're not as easy to access. So that's it. That's my setup, how functional I find it. And yeah, hopefully you found it interesting. See you next time. Bye.